What's up, guys? We are back, and today we've got Jeremy Moser. Moser?
Yes, sir. That's
Yes.
correct.
I always mess people's up, so I got to do it. So I've heard about you endlessly on X. We got to meet for the first time at Jeremy's event, but I'd like to hear it. You're the organic guy. We don't do much organic. So who is Jeremy Moser?
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder of Social Profit Media. So together with my business partner, we basically run an Instagram marketing agency. So we're kind of like growth partner guys. Really what we focus on is Instagram specific stuff. So anything from like creating content that, gets millions of good views, all the way to like shout outs, which is like an amplification method, to then converting and making a fuck ton of money for our clients or just, creators in general for their info and coaching offers.
Yeah, cool. So let's start all the way at the front. So you guys do creative. So you do all the organic side of things as well as then the big part, which is the in between, is the conversion part.
Yeah, so the big thing is like when it comes down to like growing on Instagram, everyone thinks it's like these magic bullets, right? And like they think like, oh, it's Instagram shout outs. And like we used to be boxed as like the shout outs agency, which like I really hated. It's kind of like with Facebook ads, right? You can have go-to media buying systems. If your ad creatives are shit or speak to like a bunch of poor people, like you're not really going to get anyone qualified in. Similarly to that, like shout outs are just like an amplification method where you get in front of the right people for a cheap cost. Whereas like the organic content is really the core, like creating good content that speaks to the right ICP. And then obviously from there, accelerating how many people we reach. And then really off of that, then the conversion element, which we can dive deeper into, which is like DMs to regular phone call.
Yeah. So starting on the front. So you take on who's your ICP?
Our ICP are like info coaching offers, obviously like very broad. What we found to work best with just for our specific models and like our, kind of working system is really like people have like tangible offers, like think of, I don't really like the regular drop shipping or like trading offers, but more like the niches, business acquisitions,
Yeah.
like vending ATMs, like the little like dorky, like tangible things where like if you explain it to people, they can visualize it or they feel like they have real life usage to it.
Yeah.
And then from a creator side, like we like people that are a bit older. We just found that if from a pure agency perspective, you work with like someone who's 19 who spends all his money on lifestyle, it's just not going to be the type of serious relationship that's going to yield in like serious income.
Yeah. And then what do you see? So like step one, I'm a terrible example, but like yeah, you know our main co and all that. So like if you're to approach something like that, there's hundreds of thousands of followers, but we're basically just not scrapping together. We're doing some ideation around things. There's a expert behind it, so it's not just brand name. So you guys are coming in, isn't it full scripting, and then you're just
Yeah.
talking head, and then you guys do full edits and distribution?
Yeah. So my business partner, he handles, I want to put this out, like he handles a lot on like the distribution and like shout outs and the content side. But like really the way we think about it is like very like marketing tech. Like, okay, cool. So if for yourself, right, you're obviously trying to like, let's say, for Warrior Baby, you're trying to get like women in, right? And like that's who you're trying to attract, women who want to lose weight. Well, okay, cool. That's the ICP, right? Then from there we go and think, okay, cool. Now, what does the creator, the person who make with, what about her story, her expertise, her like unique differentiation? What about it could be appealing to that demographic, or what are topics that the demographic is appealed to or interacts with that the person actually can talk about? So for example, if it's niche specific on like losing fat or like, gaining muscles, whatever it might be, or ranging from like political spectrum that they vote on. Those are where we look for like synergies. And then that's where we're making content around. And within the content, it's again well balanced between, you know, how can we get mass attention of the right type of people? And then obviously, how can we get it in a way where it's not like broad and like basically like random people come in, but it's like people that would actually buy, right? How can we get their attention if they're unaware of a problem or like they're unaware of solutions? And then in the middle of the funnel, we're like, okay, what do we need to the people who follow us now, what do we need to tell them to get them to move closer to a purchasing decision? Which to us, there's like really two sales. There's number one, like, do you like the creator? So for example, in the SMA space, right? There's Jordan Platten, Iman Gadzhi, like all these gazillion people, but like you buy from Iman because like you like Iman as a person,
Mhm.
right? Or like you actually like you rock with the way he thinks about COVID or like all that jizzle. So from there, that's what we're trying to explore. Like, how can we build that likeliness with the creative like person, like the create the personal brand. And then once that happens, how can we get them bought in on the vehicle and answer technical questions? The one thing I hate as a marketer is when they come onto the call and they're like, so how does this thing work? Or like, if they come on to you and they're like, oh, what's the difference between you and X, Y, and Z? And then the bottom of the funnel is then really like on a daily basis, like creating that FOMO example where they're like, dude, I'm so stupid. Like
So do you guys
we
do stuff like that in the front facing content, or do you just do it
in
in back?
all the content. That's
Oh,
literally like that's the background as to how we ideate stuff. And then from there, we really go and like try to reach that. Obviously, then it comes right pairing it. How can I get this super specific point across to like really broad market? And like that's where like I'd argue I'd put my business partner up against any copywriter or content writer. Like we had an offer that's promoting like VA loans, which is like only for
yeah.
military people, and like he managed that to go and get like 1 million+ views and like 300+ people with a military background to reach out. Which
Wow.
like for that to happen on like a $100 budget pretty much is pretty fucking difficult. So
Yeah.
it's about maxing, like how can you get maximum reach by speaking to a very narrow, like very specific like ICP.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So how do shout outs play into this? Because we talked right before this, but like I'm your perfect person to ask questions because I have no idea. Fun fact though, shout outs was the very first thing I did in internet marketing. It's what I bought some course about it, and that was the very first thing. And it was like buying shout outs, link in bios for $250 and like a self-liquidating opt-in. That's what I learned in the very beginning. But nowadays, obviously much different because your goal of shout outs is to grow your asset, right? Not just
Yeah.
not just drive link clicks.
This is so funny because like when I like to go on a quick tangent, like I saw one of your first videos with like the course ratings. And I was like, yo, someone who knows shout outs. Like I remember messaging you about it, like, oh, I just did it for ecom. I was like, oh
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, literally. It was like some self-liquidating ClickBank thing. Like it was the thank you page. It just went to a ClickBank
Yeah.
offer with no
So
framing.
so the way I think about shoutouts is it's an amplification mechanism, but to express it to me, it's like a Trojan horse, right? So there's all these theme pages out there, these faceless pages that talk about like business, finance, entrepreneurship, and like all that they do really is like they have like these faceless audiences of like 100, 500K, upwards of like 10 million followers. And so these people clearly, are somewhat aware that entrepreneurship's cool. They have an interest for business or finance or whatever it might be, right? It might as well work for the fitness niche. So I'm like, okay, cool. They already have some form of trust because they obviously follow that page. How can I hijack it? And then what I've realized is like, okay, cool. Like when I look at like paid ad CPMs to like reach like good people, are like pretty damn high.
Yeah.
So back in 2021, 2020, when we started this, like late that year, we would pay someone with like 1 million followers like $50. And like at the time, you would get like 1,000, 2,000 followers out of it. So
Hmm.
like you're getting like followers for like 4 or 5 cents,
And what's
you
the
know?
exact mechanism of a shout out? So is it like in stories? Is it
It's
co-posts?
It's essentially like a feed post. So you
Okay.
take, let's say, what we do is the way the mechanics work of it. So to quickly summarize this, so then basically when they see your like feed post, they then think, oh, this speaks to me or this doesn't speak to me. And obviously, if you can make it mass appeal, where like people, even if they hate on it, they push it out. More people see it. They see, oh, this is the person being promoted. They click the profile. If your profile's optimized, they convert and then they become a follower, right?
Yeah.
But the real interesting sort of like metric behind it is like we test everything organically. So like our hit rate usually is like quite a bit higher than on ads because we realize that like shoutouts just amplify and like re-emphasize like an organic effect. Like 9 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times, if an organic piece of content goes viral, if we just tweak it where like it becomes a bit more like broad appealing or like people look at it and be like, oh, this is actually interesting, it replicates the same effect on the shout out page where you get like higher engagement, higher reach, which reach is sort of like the key metric to go and actually drive followers out of. And then from there, like it just becomes a metric of like how can you adjust to the pages or like shout out networks in particular to where you get the highest amount of reach and the highest amount of people actually checking out your profile and kind of converting off of there. And
Yeah.
then for us, the North Star metric is like CPF, which is like cost per follower that we acquire.
Yeah. Okay. And then you were saying it used to be $50, but like what is it now?
It really ranges. Obviously, they've gone up because
Yeah.
they realized it was stupid. Like, I remember when we started this, we used to be up until like 3 a.m. because we were like in Europe and like it was like EST time zones. We would be like, fuck, it's only like 30 cents. Like, no. And like nowadays, when we have like 30 cents, we throw a party on like a team call because it just became like a lot more,
Yeah.
it became a lot more spenny. I think obviously people are a lot more aware with like, course selling and like the whole like influencer, like, people call it the grift, but it's basically like they're more aware, so it becomes a bit more challenging, and obviously more players into the realm. But still, like we don't have really an issue getting followers for like less than $1 for clients. And like again, the numerics behind it is, I think, to all the paid ads people is more interesting. Is that let me just double check this. Our average cost per call across clients right now on the month is like $37 or $38, something like that. And then obviously like cost per qualified might be like in the 60s. but it's obviously like the numerics are so much lower, which means like our sort of like ROAS, return on ad spend, is
Yeah.
significantly higher. Obviously, lifetime for us is like, I think, a 38x.
Oh wow. Okay, so shout outs are one piece of it. What else? Because I'm just trying to understand like the full economic picture of this thing. So it's like
So
you're growing the core and it's shout outs. Do you even touch like clipping and all of that? Is that considered a part
I
of it?
I think clipping has its place. I just think it's too much of an effort. Like, just in terms, it's too much of a hustle, and I don't think the returns are predictable, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, what I've seen with people that do clipping, it's the issue becomes that like you just get a bunch of randos in because some of
Yeah.
these clippers will just
Exactly.
they'll
Quality.
just plot views. And again, I like quality over quantity.
Uh-huh.
So basically, to kind of depict this, so on the front end where you have like, let's say, attraction, right? Traffic, it's like one content which, like, if it does well organically, we throw it on shout outs, or like we use like collaboration posts as well nowadays. And then that's really the traffic component. From there, they follow you, they, watch your content, they watch your stories. And then from there, really, inside of the content on the organic page, we have like CTAs, like, hey, if you want to learn more, like if you want to learn how you can drop 30 pounds of fat in the next, 90 days or whatever, like DM me the word blah blah. Or if you want my quick fat burning guide, DM me plan and I'll send it to you. And then from there we go into the DM, and the DM is really like the core sort of conversion mechanism that we rely on, besides like a monthly or bi-monthly webinar. Because like for a lot of people who are new to this like sort of info consulting space, they actually think it's the influencer sitting there.
Yeah.
So like if let's say you were like a big time B2B like info guy, people would think it's actually like Ryan, like responding to the messages and like basically
Yeah.
asking about like their grandma's birthday. Well, like in reality, it's just like a DM setter. And so it's really powerful because people naturally, like, now a bit less, but like still very much so, they're very open.
Yeah.
And so like they're very open, they're very like they drop their guard, which obviously on a cold call like an SDR they don't really do. And so you get to the root really faster. Plus, because they already trust you enough to reach out, if you then give them a free YouTube video, an unlisted one, which is basically just a glorified VSL, the consumption rate goes up tremendously, which means their intent is much higher, right? Their nurture level at which they show up onto the call is much higher. And so what we've noticed is it doesn't become an if, it becomes more of a how call for the most part. There's obviously like exceptions across the board, but generally speaking, those are the way the call switches, which is actually really nice because they come on
Yeah.
the call, higher show rate, and convert at a higher rate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when they're going from, so you're only using manual setters or some version of AI, but not like
We no, we like DM setters a lot. Like we use ManyChat. So ManyChat's like this one big tool. It's like we automate like parts of it. So for example, first message is always automated. So we have like 30-second speed to lead. And then follow-up messages are based on labels,
yeah.
even on like if you want to send a call link, we just click setter name link and it just automatically sends it, tracks it back to ManyChat as well. So we know exactly which conversations convert. But outside of that, we use a lot of manually because like I think teaching AI to be like emotionally intelligent and like having somewhat of an awareness, we're just not quite there yet, at least with the test we've ran. And I quite like having setters because they're able to like understand like emotions on a deeper level. And so when we train them properly, they become lethal weapons, especially like in the post sales process, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we've never done any of it. I mean, we attempted a version of like post to, comment below and get the thing sent to you. And it was like an automated send to, but then everything happens after because it's all automated to get them once they're in trainings and stuff like that. But the actual conversations, we still, to my understanding, don't have, actually, I know we don't have like comment setters even. We don't have, like, we spend in so much. We had a squeeze more meeting the other day that was like, where can we squeeze what we're currently spending? And like, where else is there pockets? And there's so much in the setter realm. So how does that, I'm just,
This is really interesting for paid ads people. I will
that's what
say
I'm
this
thinking.
because
Yeah.
last year we did a small circle of like consulting people, and there's one particular case that they were spending like 30, nowhere near what you're spending, but like 30, 40, 50K a month on ads. And like they were somewhat profitable, but not really making a lot of money. And so we basically was like, hey guys, let's just implement this content system, implement this DM strategy. Like this is as simple as that. Just post this seven times a week, like use this DM script. And so I didn't hear from the guys. I'm like, fuck, like need to check in. He's like, oh dude, we like doubled or 2.5x our ROAS. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, basically because people would go and click the VSL, right? They would check out the page. And then they would be like, oh, there's a free resource. They would go into free resource. The DM setter would scoop them up. And then obviously because it was flagged as like an ad lead per se,
Yeah.
they would now all of a sudden like increasingly convert stuff. And then obviously they on top of that got some organic traction because those people who followed were the right ICP and would engage with the content. And it really spiraled where they like quadrupled the company in like the matter of like 90 days because
Yeah.
they obviously had that like sort of organic slash paid interaction and like flywheel effect.
Yeah, so it's crazy. We need to talk about this. But so on the shout out side, so is that like, is there a network, or is that like you guys just have a spreadsheet now where you have 3,000 different pages, you know what they charge, they move it, and like,
So back in the day, it was a lot less. And because me and my business partner, we both started by building theme pages. I actually would pay him for shout outs and I would probably desperately ask him to like help me because I was pretty clueless. He's pretty good. He's like pretty good at this whole thing. And realistically, like what happened was we could build a really good relationship with all the shout out pages. Now, some of them, they were bought out. So it's like small pockets of networks. We just now have a media buyer. She's fucking amazing. She literally just manages like 250 plus pages, which can be a bit of a nightmare. But there's are like one or two agencies that kind of like have like massive networks. Again, for us, I'm very conscious on like quality. So like our vetting process is pretty extensive because some pages they will send you insights and be like 80% like US audience, but like then when you send it, it's just like non-buyer countries. Like
yeah,
it's literally just like sir, and you're just sitting there like, fuck, I just wasted a hell of a lot of time, and your DM setters are unhappy. So we take that side very similar. We could probably spend more if we wanted to, but it's just to us, it's not worth the risk because on top of that, if you have the wrong networks, again, the algorithm flags what type of people follow you, what type of people interact with you. We find that the longer we work with clients, the better our lead quality becomes because
yeah,
I think Meta is so intelligent where they see, oh, these are the type of people we do with. Again, we interact with our ideal ICP and then
yeah.
they send us more of those.
Yeah, I'm trying to, what are like, you said cost per follower under $1 roughly. So when you're doing some of these things, like what is expected if I had, like, what are budget caps almost? Where it's like, if I wanted to be like, hey, like 50,000 tomorrow, or not
Yeah.
tomorrow, but like over the next month. Is that a thing?
I would say there's not really a budget cap. Like, dude, there's guys out there that spend like, I think they're really stupid, the ones who do it, just to be very clear. And they usually rip our ad creatives, but they spend like 100, 200K a month on shout outs. Now, they're getting like a 4 or 5x return, right? Which like sounds awesome, but it's like, to me at least, all the funnels are non-compliant, as like Jeremy Haynes calls it. And it's genuinely like such high pressure sales that I just don't see being sustainable. But like for us, at scale right now for our clients, we're spending like 250K, two 20 to 25K. So it's really like it's more about what you make out of it, you know?
So
Because we
they're spending 20, 25K a month with you, getting 20, 25,000 followers roughly or more, right?
roughly around that realm, yeah. And then on top of that, they convert a bunch of those.
And then
Like
you're trying to track back that they're making whatever you just said, like quick math before
I,
X,
I,
they're making
I would
100K
say at
plus.
this point, if we're not making at least a like obviously lifetime is like a 37x, but like if at least on the immediate stuff we're not making at least like a 15, 20x, like I would
Really?
personally say we suck dick. Yeah.
Really?
No, like we have very high standards. Like because the thing is this, I always talk about this with Jeremy Haynes because it's like when he told me once that like average Facebook ads funnel is like 1.5
Yeah.
1,500 like
100%.
calls to hit clock a milli, we expected with like 650 to 750, right? Which is it's just about efficiency because you can't infinitely scale it, obviously, right? But like we had a client that pushed near 2 mil a month off of like 28K in spend because like their setting and like sales team was just fucking nasty. There's a
That's
well-known sales
crazy.
trainer
Do you
too, so
have
like
do you have like percent roughs? So like, because I'm trying to back into this, like what would a call cost? Like,
so
right?
I'll
And
run
then
you the
there's,
numbers.
six
So
different metrics before that. And it's like, how much does it cost for the shout out? Because that's where your cash is going out. And then it's
yeah,
how
let me
much
just
for your
quickly
ad
push
calls,
up our
followers.
dashboard so I can give you the numbers on this.
And of course,
So
we're talking rough, and it depends on the niche, and it depends on
yeah,
then
yeah.
the close rates and the offer and the economic. You know what I mean? Like everything changes, but rough.
So month to date, we basically generated, and this is new leads, right? Not people who reached out in the past reaching back out. This is just new people who have never heard of us. So new leads, 25,000, like rough around the edges. Ad spend on that, 33 grand so far. Probably slightly higher, but
It's
we'll
great.
be roughly like 50K by the end of the month. We'll probably have like 30,000 leads. Obviously, like cost per lead right now is like $1.30. Let's like boost that up and make it like $3, right? Off of the $3, the cost per call would roughly be anywhere between like $30 to $45. And then
What?
obviously off of that show up rate, I would expect, I personally have high standards on that. Show up rate, which is just people who show divided by like total calls minus
Yeah.
cancel calls, I would expect to be 70% and above. And like I used to say close rate, but like obviously like I credit Josh Troy for this a bunch. I look more like cash per call, you know? So if
Yeah.
we, and I want a cash per call unless we sell a below 6K offer, I want a cash per call of like 1,000 to 1,500.
Yeah. No, that's
Top
pretty.
top
That's pretty in
top
line with
clients have
us.
2K per call, and like that allows us to scale, right? 600 calls, 1.5K per call. We're sitting at like 900K.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And because you're not auto sending them through any of this, it's a conversation before they go to, because like right now, for example, we do everything through application and then to booking, and then there's like the drop off there. Jeremy says I'm stupid. I get it, but we use it for all this other stuff. But the when they're having a conversation with a setter and then you're pushing them into an app or a booking, generally speaking, you're already talking like a 70-80% show rate, which is like amazing, versus someone who direct does it on their own, you
Yeah.
know,
What's
50,
what's
60.
what's interesting is we hate applications or like type forms, to be honest with you. Because what we found is so we had a deal. Mo doesn't mind me speaking about it, but we had a deal with Josh, was on one of the first deals we worked with him. And like they came in and like, hey, we need like type form filtering. And I was like, dude, that's actually like amazing. I think that's actually pretty damn good. Because I was like, I never had someone tell me we filter applications. But it
Yeah.
was interesting because within like 10, 14 days of us rolling it out, we had the lead DM setter on that deal come to me and be like, hey, we need to go and speak to them about the filtration system because the filtrations make sense. Like, there was nothing wrong with what they did, but the issue was that people on Instagram, they would lie on the app, so they would get
Ah,
disqualified. Right? That same week, I looked at like Hyro stats for a client, and we had a guy that did a 25K PIF, and the Hyros path shows on the Instagram link he was DQ'd on the type form like 3 times. So he went through like 4 funnels, was DQ'd 3 times, then ended up piffing. So we then realized, oh, if we do a good enough job to where we kind of have baseline qualifications like not poor, not unemployed, like in the US, we go direct to Calendly. We made some tweaks in that particular deal where like we'd be like, okay, let's change the lead attributions, or like the setters get to chat to the sales manager and be like, hey, this lead's solid. And then obviously if too many leads aren't, we'll make a tweak. And then that particular offer that we had with Josh, we made those tweaks. They crushed it on the sales side, and we ended up getting to like a mil a month on that one within 90 days. So it's just once you have that, it's really nice because we can just book them in. They show up. I personally think there's a drop off on type forms as well.
yeah.
Like on the DMs, it's like too annoying. And like as a whole,
Yeah.
that's
Ours
just
is
really nice.
very long. Ours is like one of the longest ones in the space too. Ours is like 16 questions. Yeah. So that's the other question, because like when they're automated, they go through there. But if you're capturing all the setter stuff, like we have a setter dedicated link, exactly what you're saying, and then they'll capture questions and then just throw them in the notes, like within HubSpot. So ManyChat, and then they're going to Calendly or whatever call booking,
Yep.
and then whatever CRM. But
Yep.
you guys are mainly sitting in whatever platform direct, and then all the setters are inside a ManyChat account.
Yeah, they're all in ManyChat, and the cool thing is with ManyChat, there's like I don't know, I barely know how to spell Zapier, so like I might fumble this, but basically what our tech guy did is he set up an automation where if the setter clicks like, "Oh, send the link," it adds the ManyChat chat ID.
Yeah.
So then what happens is it feeds it back, and then it adds a tag to that conversation, call booked. One, obviously, we know the conversation that was a call book that shows in the CRM, but also two, it then initiates the pre-call sequence. Like, yo, just saw you booked with closer name. He's one of my top consultants. Here's all
Yeah.
the stuff you need before. And so, like, it's just that stuff that really helps us operationalize it. Because to me, I'm like very much like a high touch personalization person, where like if I can get a very personalized like interaction with you versus
Yeah.
someone who's broad, I probably will be more likely to buy.
Yeah. There's other guys out there that are, I'm curious, is it like the same space when when anyone's talking about shout outs? I'm so not well versed on this world, but like they're like, oh yeah, they charge big fees, or they try and do this big shout out, and shout outs more or less are all the same in that way, right? Or like people are trying to do
Yeah.
the same game plan. Yeah, it's so interesting. So zooming back out to you though, you ran this gambit, or you're running this gambit now. Do you also do some version of like growth operating as well, or is it like
It's really what we do. Like I think this whole like growth operating, growth like partnering stuff is like we're kind of the epitome of it, right? Obviously, we do the content stuff and like we proactively push to like get as many followers, as many leads. But then on the back end, like, and this is more like where my world comes in. My business partner handles really a lot of the content, like ad stuff. That's like very nitty gritty. His stuff is like the conversion side, right? Most clients when they come in, they have pretty shitty DM teams. And it's not the client's fault. It's just like it's a different world, right? Versus like
yeah,
SDRs, you know, like so
yeah,
many times people come in, they're like, yeah, I got the setting stuff handled. And within a week, I'm like, oh, high no-show rates, low lead quality. I'm like, yeah, I told you guys.
yeah,
So it's really the growth operating we do is like one we advise in terms of like best practices, right? Hey, here's our setter training. Like we can help with placing a setter if need be. Like we have like a little network. I have one or two setter managers that we can place now as well, just to kind of help bridge the gap. And then we just really look at like conversions. So like right now, what I do a lot is like I sit with like our little call analyzer AI tool and like I look at what stuff says and I just like, because I've seen it so many times, we just go and flame closers. Because it's like, it's almost like when we work with sales agencies or like closer pots, we always bump into it with them and like have some like harder conversations. Because like my standards up here and they're like, well, but on webinar, like via cell phones, it's actually really good. So like we're performing well. I'm like, no, you need to double the efficiency because I can't just click a few fucking buttons and like
yeah,
triple the amount of calls you get, you know? And so that to us has been like is tremendous. So in a sense, we growth operate because we just own the entire channel. And then on the piece that are conversion based, we just consult or like make sure that we convert. So it's like I don't want you to worry about, oh, is my content making money? Like I'll worry about it.
yeah.
And then we just convene and like kind of strategize with the client what needs to happen on the sales or like, you know, the conversion side of things to be improved. Like what sales assets do we need, you know? What live calls do you need to do? What stories do we need? And that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
we really take that angle quite serious.
Yeah, so within the growth operating model, you essentially handle like attraction, like you said, and then you
Yeah.
end sales, but then you kind of like stop there. So you guys,
Yeah,
just because you want to make sure the traffic you send in is actually used in order to
exactly.
get the ROI. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Someone dropped a good question on here, but so from scratch, like our example is like you layered into someone who already has an offer, who already has a team, who already has all these things. But like for someone from scratch to go 0 to 100K on organic, like what are the pieces and puzzles in that puzzle?
So what I would do is, and this might be a little ramble, but what I would do is I'd go figure out number one, who's my ICP, and I would just really go super in depth. What's their pain? What's their dreams? What do they want to do? And then I would layer out, like we call this like the branding, the personal brand alchemy. Shout out Sam Ovens. We would literally go and do what's your origin story, like deep from like childhood, you know, like what's your childhood trauma, your childhood story, school experiences, all of that to jizzle, then all the way to how you discovered your business model, who wrote on that one, etc. Pretty much until you basically started selling a course. From there, I would go and map out like, okay, what are opinions that I hold, right? That make me unique. You know, I do that, the origin story. I break down the business vehicle, like what's the tactical steps people go through. I would literally just break all of that down in as much detail as possible, like what softwares you use and all of that stuff and why. And then the last thing that I do is like I find my 5 to 10 biggest competitors. I go and use like Viral Finder or like, you know, like Sort Feed. And I basically just layer out everything that all their most viral pieces of content from the last 3 to 6 months. Cause like every 6 months, like the algorithm changes or like there's a
Yeah.
massive way of how content works. And then I just basically just scrape them, I throw them in, and I would spend a good hour just analyzing it. And I would figure out what are the topics that are going viral within my niche? What are things that really triggers the fuck out of people? What are common questions that are people asking? Right. And like, what are some things that people resonate with strongly? And then again, I take those four things and I then compare it with my story, my opinions, and whatever. So, for example, for a client of ours who's in the Airbnb space, he basically had this very unique point where he's like, he like told me on a call, randomly, he's like, dude, you're so stupid for buying a house and living in it, you know, like it's just so dumb. And then he was like, that's not something you rent down, you pay for your rent, and, and he goes in this ramble. And I'm like, okay, Grant Cardone, you
Yeah.
know? Same day, my team and I, we stumble across like this Grant Cardone post rambling on like how home ownership's dumb. And it has like, 2 million views. And we're like, oh my God, that's an
Flip
angle.
it.
No, we're
Flip.
like, oh, let's run with this, you know? Instead of buying a home and living in it, buy it and sublet it on like Airbnb and basically make this much money. Like here's exactly how. And like that ended up being like a winning ad, viral piece of content. And so it's like we overlay like the person's story and like expertise with what's already working or like popping off, right? And so then you mix that and then that's a piece of content. From there to get very tactical is I think 0 to 100K you don't need shout outs. As long as you just go and say, okay, cool, I'm gonna post 7 pieces of content or minimum 5 pieces of content a week, right? They're like well structured. I either tell a story, introduce and explain my business vehicle. So like an interesting way to frame Airbnb, Section 8, whatever you're selling, right? Tells your story, then it expresses your opinion as to why you do things a certain way. That should go and give you a good mixture of like attracting people and nurturing them. And then from there, I just post my stories, show that I'm a cool person, right? We had clients that made close to 100K with like 7K followers
Hmm.
because it's about like what do you make out of it. You'll if you post for 30 days, I'd have a very hard time believing that you don't have a single piece of content that gives you like 100 plus leads. If you get 100 plus leads, you book 10 to 15 calls, you know, off of that, you should probably be getting like 10 that show up. You close three, you're making your first, like, I don't know, like 20, 30K. From there, you just need to basically quadruple that. And off of 500 leads, you'll probably go and make like 100 grand.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is like very dumbed down, right? The
Yeah.
gold part of it lies in doing the research. Like, if I showed you my business partner doing like writing a thread, like a carousel, like a reel, like people when I tell them how long it takes, they're like, yeah, there's no chance. I'm like, yeah, but he got fucking 3 million views off investors, you know? So like pipe down, you know?
That's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
that's really the math. And it's like it sounds simple, but like as long as you do simple things really fucking well and you just keep obsessing over them, that's where like you look at the best content creators, like the few that I really respect, you know, like Blake Rocha, one person I really respect and have a great relationship with. Like he obsesses and has the exact same process, and like you know he's printing like hella money off of the info side.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So, quick tactical thing. So those leads, for example, the 100 and then 15. Is there anywhere else to squeeze those leads? Like, do they end up in email sequence? Do you get email even? I don't think you do in ManyChat, right?
I honestly just don't like it because the drop off's just so big. Like they just and then they just give you bogus emails. It's just like I don't think they like that. They want to be spoken to. Obviously we capture them, and then what we do if they drop off, right? So either they push through, great, they get disqualified, and if they're disqualified and they're from non-buyer countries, I don't want to speak to them. And so then at this point, to people who ghost, we just do long-term follow-ups. And like that's something I definitely took from Jeremy Haynes in terms of how we've used like agency outreach at the time. Is
Yeah.
like we just reach out like, yo, by the way, you know, I just made this few training breaking down my latest property. If you wanted, like, just let me know. And it's all super value driven follow-up stuff. From there, we capture email. We have one or two clients that do really well with SDR dials. But mainly speaking, I just keep them inside of ManyChat because ManyChat is kind of like an email CRM. If it's
Yeah.
done properly, you can follow up for 7 days afterwards. But I think we found some workarounds to basically just have like infinite reloops of the 7 days. We're testing that right now. And so then if you do it properly, like, you know, you can get upwards of like 25 calls out of like 100 plus, like out of
Yeah.
100 leads, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Very interesting. So, like, who is, you said Josh Troy a couple times, but like, who's the Avengers dream team right now of info coaching? If like you guys are handling this front end and getting to that next conversion site, right? Like, you get them to the phone. Josh is an example of somebody who's running sales agency who runs that, but like who do you see doing it well? Or like what other pieces you don't have to say names if you don't want to, but like what other pieces of the puzzle do you see are like super high leverage in order to like maximize the ROAS of what
DM setters.
DM setters?
Yeah, honestly, I would say probably we shit on everyone when it comes down to DM setters. I have one or two setter guys that like I've kind of brought up with through clients that are now kind of like working as like fractional DM setters. And it's just one or two good ones of those. Like, dude, they're just like so good. Because instead of me managing 8 different or 10 different like setting
Yeah.
teams, I get them in place and like basically like I just talk to them all day and like more from like a performance perspective, right? Probably similar to like when you speak to like your team, it's like, dude, you guys gotta step it up, or like you guys gotta think about these problems better. And they're like, because they know the tactical stuff, you just empower them from an emotional or like mental perspective, they just go to town and like they really get these people running. So DM setting is super core. Sales team, it's difficult. I couldn't go and put a finger. There's a few people I think have done a good job with, you know. Again, it always depends on the client, you know. We've
Yeah.
had deals with sales agencies where like, dude, sales agency was fucking crushing it, you know, client threw a fucking massive cop in the web and then the sales agency looks like they're shit, you know. It's and vice versa, you know. There's deals where like the client looks like doo-doo, but in terms of the sales agency. But yeah, like Josh's been fairly consistent. Like there's a few offers that we're running up with him.
Yeah.
Um, Caden and Trey, they were also Jeremy's. Like they've been running one of our offers. It's just having a good sales manager, you know.
Yeah.
There's two good friends of mine. Like they're honestly from like an operational and like sales perspective. They don't want to be named, but like they're fucking elite. I would have them any day of the week. And then back end, I like back end
Yeah.
sellings quite a bit. There's a guy you should actually speak to, Kerry Nollis. He's really good on back end sales. Like just because it just helps, like even on high ticket sales, like it really helps on like LTV like maximization, which I
Yeah.
think is honestly for those type of leads is pretty sick.
Yeah. So what kind of count do you need? Like, what are the ratios for DM setters that you need based on lead volume? Like, you said 2 of them, but like, if you have,
I
let's
like
see.
less. Less is more in my books. Like the way, so I have a very reverse psychology. Like I despise closers and I really like DM setters because I think DM setters, they're often treated like the scum of the earth pretty much. Or like, yeah, you
Correct.
little thing. I kind of like to empower them. And I'm like, I want to give you more leads, but I'm going to push the fuck out of you. Like I have a background in like playing pro tennis. So I was like, oh, actually, I'm gonna treat it that way. And so like I treat them like little pro athletes, and like they really respond well to it. Whereas if you're like, oh, we're 4 setters, 24/7 coverage, they're like, yeah, my paycheck's gonna be minimal. Whereas with the small ones, when they realize like, oh, I can make serious money, like they'll go to town. Like the one setter I mentioned, he made like 40 grand in a month DM setting on a 4% commission split. So
Wow.
like but that's because what happens is because I kind of try to build him up and be like, look, this is the minimum standard, and I try to like help him become the person able of doing it. On top of that, I'm like, look, you now own this like little part. You need to innovate because it's so hard. And so
Yeah.
I've had this one setter, he's like turned into a good friend now, where he'll just tell me like, dude, I've been sending, for example, a webinar recording right at the front. Dude, that's actually doubled conversions, or like, oh, dude, we've been sending podcast episodes, and like they'll start innovating for you. And obviously,
Yeah.
if you have like 4 or 5 of them, every second day you hear something and then you can cross
Yeah. You
pollinate
layer
it.
it in over to the other ones.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
far as like with sales teams, you can find clothes that complain about lead quality, like sand on the beach.
Yeah. Fair, fair. Yeah. So, okay, interesting. And then that's similar to what we've heard for comp for 3 to 5 if they're like
Yeah,
self-genning essentially. And then commission only. But yeah, that's crazy. So rough volume though is what, a few hundred a day per?
yeah. I think 200-300 a day. Like I would say, past. It really depends on the offer too. To be honest with you, it's really weird. Whenever I speak to trading guys, they're like, "Oh, dude, we're getting like 500 DMs a day," and I'm like, "How are you not doing millions of dollars a month? Like you suck."
Trading is
Um,
nuts. It's
Yeah,
a whole
trading is crazy. It's an offer we just can't get behind. Like not because of like it's just a stigma. Just like it's just
yeah.
tough. But anyways, like with traders, it's tough. Whereas like with traders, you can handle a lot more volume. I would say upwards of 500 per person per day. But on an offer like business acquisitions, right, where like you speak to people who actually have like a few brain cells and like actually are somewhat sophisticated, like 150, 250 max is like where you kind of tap out because the conversations there get a bit more like intellectual or like a bit more complex, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. Someone commented on here and said, would love to hear his rants about opt-ins some more. You rant about opt-ins? You don't like opt-ins?
I mean, I
Jeremy
don't
said the
hate
same
it. I
thing.
don't.
Jeremy says it.
I will say this: Jeremy Haynes hates it. Maybe I'm
Hates
getting
it.
confused with Jeremy.
Hates it.
I know, but one thing I will say is we recently had a client right now that the team came in and they're just like, honestly, like very obnoxiously, like, oh, we need opt-ins, we need opt-ins. Sounds like, guys, please shut the fuck up with your opt-ins. And like, but then they showed me an offer where they're doing like 1.5 mil a month off of just outbound SDR styling opt-ins. So I was like, you know what? Like that client campaign isn't going great anyway. So like, I don't really have a say in this right now.
Yeah.
And honestly, like what happened is like pretty much like right off the rip, like they started collecting more. And so I have a very split opinion. I think if you have a strong SDR department, I'm actually a fan of opt-ins.
Dude, so we do opt-in with no phone number, so there's no SDRs.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, because we do it for consumption. So we hammer emails. Hammer
Okay.
emails. We have every contextual flow you can imagine, twice a day blasts, every day. Like, yeah, that's our whole model built around. But I could like, it's funny because we started to lean into organic on like long form a little bit harder. So like trying to lean into first touch YouTube, longer form, mid form, whatever. And we were sending it to an opt-in as the link in the description and stuff, and it just wasn't really backing out. Like we had a low ticket, and then we had an opt-in for free training. So we changed it to a DTA, so just like headline VSL app, like button available, and it was like not that crazy, but it was an uptick like right off the rip because those people have already consumed X amount. Like just think of the framing, right? It's like they've probably watched multiple videos. They just watch long, mid, long form, and they're ready. And then it's like, oh, hey, can you please put in your information and then watch a VSL that's long form that then doesn't have an app button? And it's like, yeah, it just wasn't converting. So yeah, the opt-in thing's interesting, but I don't know because like setters on phones, it kind of like overlaps on top of what you guys are doing. Because like, what are the do you ever do anything with like link in bio or like direction that you're
Yeah.
setting?
Yeah. So what we do with the link in bio is basically like what we do is for most clients, I basically call it like the triple layered like conversion system. So when someone comes in, the likelihood of them DMing you is very high, right? So and on there you have like a 7-day conversion system, and then if they don't convert there, like most people, they just leave them away. So what
Yeah,
we do is like every month for every 6 weeks, we run like a sweeper where we promote like a webinar, for example, for like a few days in a row, and then we have a link in bio. We kind of put the link in, and obviously when we drive a lot of shout out traffic, people just passively click it, so we use it there. And then every 3 months we run a challenge. So like now you have people at worst that have like a DM conversation, sales conversation, watch the webinar and watch the challenge. So like the conversions, they really stack up. But
yeah,
for us, that's what we like. I like if somebody's good at webinar and does them weekly, we just leave the webinar like sign up either in the bio, and then they just passively like sign up, and that's been really nice. Like some
yeah,
clients
yeah,
just make
evergreen
like,
flow. Yeah,
yeah, 20, 40K a week in just passive like webinar sales. It's like
yeah.
we won't say no to that.
Yeah, no one would. This is a funny one. If Instagram was gone tomorrow, would
Like
you guys
LinkedIn.
go
Oh, we've been dominating LinkedIn. I'm not even gonna like keep it on the low, but like we've been fucking LinkedIn up.
really?
Yeah. Like it's funny because we basically realized at some point, I was like, okay, cool, we're creating content. Like whenever my business partner would like help me write a content for like, for example, for my brand, like I would actually go like fairly pop off on Twitter. And I was like, dude, that's not even like, that's me writing. I'm not even that good of a writer. I was like, if that pops up, what would happen if we posted our client content piece? They get like 2-3 million views on Instagram. So, Marco, he's a good friend of mine. He actually helped us with like distribution and whatnot. And so we literally just like with a few tweaks, took the organic content pieces, put them on LinkedIn with like a headline tweak or whatever and adding a picture and then running some distribution on it. And like we have a client now that went in like a few months from like 4K to, over 30,000 followers. And on his particular offer, he's cleared like an extra 150K last month, which again, right? In the grand scheme of multiple 7 figures a month, it's not big, but it's like 150K off of like 3K in distribution spent. Like,
Yeah,
not going to say no to those profit margins. So
yeah,
LinkedIn, I would literally just go do the same thing on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I would guarantee you we would get those back up fairly comfortably as well.
yeah. Because you see people do it on X all the time, where it's like comment below, then they have the bots and stuff. But like, does that work for LinkedIn? Is that what people are doing there? Comment as well and like owning the
It's a
DM.
lot more outbound heavy, I've found. So obviously you run through the connection requests, but like generally speaking, a lot of the LinkedIn boomers, they don't even get the info marketing spiel. So on one client, they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I didn't think you'd actually like care about connecting with people. And we would just sit there and be like, dog, you're about to eat like a 30K invoice for like our program. You just don't know it yet. It's like, it's so cool because they're like, still the whole like, I got engaged and here's one taught me about B2B sales. Like, because those angles still rip. When we
Yeah,
come in with like level 8, 9 out of 10 sophisticated content, it just rips. Like, even if it doesn't go viral instantly, it just really helps. And like, the leads we get are so qualified.
yeah,
Like, not to try and see I'm trying to suck off our own shit, but like, it's pretty good. Like, when you see the leads, I'm like, yeah, I've never seen anything like this.
yeah. No, 100%. Someone asked on here, growth operating as like an industry. Do you feel like it's saturated? I mean, like my opinion on it or like direction of it
Go
of
for it.
people owning different pockets versus someone who's like the everything growth operator. Like there's that kind of dance that's happening. But what do you view of the current space?
I think the issue is like everyone that buys into Growth Operated does it so they can be on like a Miami yacht wearing like a day joss and talking to a 5 out of 10. Like that's really what I think most people try to do. Whereas like for us, like when I say like we don't live that kind of crazy flashy lifestyle, like both me and my business partner, like for 5 years, we've done the same thing, and our whole focus every day is how can we make clients a fuck ton of money and deliver a really good service. And so I think it's if you really obsess about like the service, right? I think you had like Nick Fisher on, and like when he was showing like his internal shit that he's building, I'm like, yeah, that guy seems pretty obsessed of like the success of clients. You know, like all the best people that I've known, they're just focused on that shit. And so if you're focused on that, honestly, growth operating is such an amazing space. Because I think as info becomes, I'm not going to say more saturated, but it's definitely become harder. Like we used to like pop up like 300K months, like it was a breakfast, bagel for nothing. Now it's a bit more tough to go and do bigger months, but when you can do it, you can actually take a bigger share.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like you guys owning your world, like you just said, Marco owning his world. Like I'm seeing that more and more. Where like if I'm looking to do something on LinkedIn, it'd be like go to Marco, and then if I'm looking to do something with shout outs, and it's go to you guys. And instead of having like one person that tries to be like okay at all of them, I'm seeing more and more that there's like some snipers, and the costs stack up. I'll be real. So like your P&L has to be able to support it, or it has to be like a good performance deal style thing.
Yeah.
But if you can stack them up correct, I think it's like I said earlier, it's like Avengers, where
It's just tough. I don't like having multiple growth operators on the deal, because what I've noticed is like I'm saying this when for example, if I was on a deal with like let's say Jeremy Haynes, right? Say we had a deal together. I'm aware that like in the scheme of like growth operating, like both me and my business partner were in a circle. We would be like, oh, cool. If Jeremy has like a grand idea, wants to do something, we would probably listen, right? Because I think we're fairly self-aware. But most growth operators, they come in and they're worried about their little skimpy like 2% fluctuations, and so it becomes like this ego battle, right? When you have like semi-incompetent marketers, and then the client kind of doesn't get the return out of it. And like I usually try to be like, look, let's just whack one person and just have people who are serious about like just the scaling of the company, and we'll figure out the reshares and the tracking and like all of that bullshit out later.
Yeah.
But that's why it's just tough stacking up different people, because some people will always just say what suits them versus what is actually best for the client.
Yeah. Yeah. The growth operating thing, it's like for us, if you're trying to build serious value and not just cash flow it, there's also the play that's kind of like the Hormozy, how he talks about like you hire a contractor who's the best at it ever, you kind of overpay, they run the gambit, you and your team almost like shadow and learn how they do it, and then it like moves to consulting, and then you move to in-house. And we've like kind of tried that in the past, and thus far it's been us, like we haven't done a good job. Like the service provider comes in, does a good job for what they need to do, but like we can't replicate it, and it's dream state. Like it's just we're not good enough at it. And
I just
again,
really disagree with that philosophy. Really disagree with that philosophy, because I think it's just so backwards thinking. Like, and I think maybe that's the quality of growth partners. Like, my proudest stat is that we have a 99% failure rate when clients trying to do it by themselves, and I'm really proud of it. The point is like we have this right now of like we have a few clients that are doing like multi 7 figures a month, mixture of paid and organic.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is like, for example, one client, they literally like blew up, did like, over 3 million a month off of paid ads. And then obviously the focus on like the organic side like kind of went down, right? But the performance is still being solid from like an organic perspective, because we just kind of take that like creative director, whatever you want to call it, role, and like we just drive that department forward, because obviously we're incentivized, right?
Yeah.
Like one of our clients, we got him to like $1 million a month off of Instagram alone. He's pays like a lot of money. And so as a result, guess what? Before I go to sleep, if that sales team's not performing, or like if that client isn't making a fuck ton of money, like I'm not going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, yeah, you can go and have it in-house, but unless you have someone who's seriously financially incentivized, you're never really going to be able to like make as much money. And if you're worried about margins, fair enough. But if you're worried about scaling, you want to have individuals that are incentivized on helping you scale, and almost take like an approach of like, I own this division of the business, and I'm going to make sure it's the most lucrative one.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's super interesting because like there's two sides to that, where it's like if you are cash flow, info, coaching, all like 99.9% are never going to sell. I talk about that on here, and most people don't. And it's like, it doesn't matter for that. But if you were to ever try and sell, and you guys are like their core acquisition strategy, you're external, and you're like just this like external contractor that lives wherever and does this, like not a good look. But like purely for cash flow, absolutely. 20x ROAS, like run it up.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to like play that. Do you do any of the info? I see a lot of these guys doing it nowadays, but like, do you sell info or like a course or an education on how to do this?
We went on how to do shoutouts? Hell no.
Yeah.
No.
Do you see so many people do it? Like I see people.
But I think it's because you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
Like just super honest. Like if you actually were as good as you were, You just do it. Like, I realized that we were just doing organic content, right? For example, like, even with that, I'm like, yeah, most people don't pay. And like, why am I spending 4 hours on someone that paid me like essentially like 5K a month for 4 months? Whereas in reality, if I spend those 4 hours on a client that already pays me a tenner a month, we actually can grow the rev share. And now all of a sudden we make 20K. And if we do our shit right, it's 20K every single month.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's irresponsible. We're right now, we're at a point where we just realized like, it's hard to go and like scale our model to like multiple seven figures. So it's like something we're considering is like, do we have some form of like a licensing playbook or like something like that? Because again, I can go and sell info and like, you know, we had a client that actually stole our basically like our call recordings to go and launch his own offer on like how he got shout out results when like he really didn't. Um, so
Dude,
it's like,
are fucking insane.
yeah, it's crazy. Like every coach's coach that we've ever worked with tried to run a shout out program and basically act like they've done it themselves, which is wild. But anyways, so basically, like with that, it's like we wouldn't just want to sell something just for the cash grab. You know, I would want to
Yeah.
sell it as a good product. So it's just about like, can we do it? Because at the same time, I also know info guys like 100 grand a month. They're not going to go sit at their desk and like copyright for like 2.5 hours to get like a semi decent piece of content out. So it's about how can we leverage AI to really make it like a here's a system, put it in your
Yeah.
business. Then we'd consider it. But until then, we'll just stay in our pocket.
Yeah, yeah, understandably. I see people do it all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, well, I'll do it for you for a percentage, like best monetization model in the world, like for a percentage of the upside plus this plus that." And it's like, or I'll just, you can have my SOPs or whatever, and it's like 10K. And like I get it, kind of, but at the same time, it just like eats alive and it lands in them to be able to fulfill on it. It also is if your information is good enough and guides them on how to do it well enough. It's like it's a two hand, right? It's like how good is the education and walkthrough, how much is the support and whatever. Do you for your monetization model? I don't know if you talk about it, but is there like a play, like let's use us. Like, is it like 10K to pay you and then you pay for all the ad spend, or like do you bake yourself into the ad spend?
No, so what we do is the ad spend is very much like we bake it out of it. It's just literally like an extra cost. So like our model is pretty much like base retainer, which is in, 5 figures plus, without just giving everything away.
Yeah,
Then
you're
ad spend, some people mark it up. I find that pretty dumb because you just inflate your own ad costs. Like I don't get that. So we literally like on a sheet, people can see exactly how much we spend. We just ask them to sign a non-disclosure that they don't, because we have great relationships with advertisers. And so it's not that when somebody leaves that they're like, hey, I know the agency pays you this much. I don't want that. But yeah, we just show them exactly how much we spend and what it goes down towards. They pay us that one because we just get it on a discounted rate there. And then it's a profit share, just basically just how much we cash collect minus the sales cost, which is like predetermined, minus ad spend and our work fee. And then from there, we take our profit share and then we just trying to make as much of it as possible.
Yeah, no, I mean, if the economics are what you said they are, like there's a lot of room in that in
Yeah.
comparison to ads. Like if your CPA is $2,000, let's say, or then you're getting calls for $50, then it's.
It's the issue is like we've I would say that's like another flaw that we have because it's become so tough to create like really good content. Like you actually really need to know what you do because like people see like for example breast scales like TJR, which I think are like outliers, and I think they're as brands like phenomenal.
Yeah,
1010 or like Iman, but it's like they're trying to replicate. I'm like, you can't do it. Like TJR was live streaming for like years, so like you can't replicate that. Same with like breast, or like Iman. It's like you can copy the playbook, but unless you're doing it for 7 years, like you're going to be screwed,
yeah,
but yeah, like that's just one of those things.
yeah. No, 100%. Well, cool. What else? What else you got that's fun and snazzy over in DM
So,
land or growth operate
so
land?
there's two things in DM land that I really like. I actually said this to like Josh, and he really liked it. That's what I like about having different clients where like different other people are involved.
Yeah,
So, because I want to give credit there. There's one guy that runs like paid ads like webinars. His name is Michael Supina. He's a good friend of mine, and he basically ran ads for one of our clients. And what he did is one day, webinar jam, bro. Good old fucking webinar jam. Like every client's had the outage. And so what he did is like, oh, I know you signed up for like this resource, but like for some reason it's breaking. Just DM me on Instagram. And so we booked, I don't want to give you some bullet BS number, but we booked like X amount of calls. We legit added 30% more booked calls off the people that DM'd for the resource, and then DM setters hit them back. And so then we're like, yo, this is awesome. And then when we're going to go back, I was like, yo, Michael, let's run it back into the DMs. And so then at the end, instead of like doing anything, like, oh, by the way, I know you signed up, and at the end we're gonna give away this free resource. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'll send it over to you. And then we just kept doing that. And like that created like honestly the first time like a really nice fly effect between organic and paid.
Hmm.
Where like organic cold would like bring a lot of attendees and like that was obviously a very scalable mechanism. But then the conversion side was actually spiked because they would either then just DM you and like not do anything, but they would start follow you. And then obviously over time they would kind of get indoctrinated. So that was honestly like something more meta. I think I said that to Josh Gavin and he was like, oh, that's actually interesting. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's actually a pretty cool mechanism, even on like low ticket. If you buy one, you're like, by the way, if you message me on Instagram, I'll send you like a private training that I'm hosting. Boom. I just want them in the DMs because I can nurture that relationship. And the closer people get to you, the more they see your stuff. It's just like one of those like natural like Instagram things. And I
Yeah.
really want to have that because the more they see me, the more touch points, the more they start to believe my credos. So that's one thing. And the second thing, which is like the newest thing, it's my favorite thing by far, is getting the setters involved in post call. So, cause it stemmed from like me just sometimes being really frustrated because I probably have unrealistic expectations to be quite frank with you. And I'm probably sometimes a fucking dickhead to work with. Like say it's super frank. But I just realized, okay, instead of me then just going on like hate rants towards sales teams, what can I do to just support them? You know, like Jeremy Haynes basically like yelled at me, was like, be creative. And so we realized that like, oh, we have to leverage that people actually like the creator and they don't understand that it's like some DM setter. So we would get like some AI sales analyzer, which throws you a quick summary. And then if we see an obvious knick-knack, we'd go back in the DMs and start like hammering them. So basically like we would go back and it was on an account that was, the creator was like fairly well liked and a bit of like an alpha male. And so like the guy was like in the DMs, like acting a bit snazzy. And then on the call was like a total pussy. So we would just go back and he'd be like, yo, just heard from X, Y, and Z, you being a total pussy. Like, what's up with that? And the person would be like, ah, dog, you're calling me out. He'd give you the real objection. You'd send him back, or like you get the person brand to send a quick voice memo, 10K piff. So like this week alone in one of the
Interesting.
offers,
So for you're talking about for no for like non-closes.
yes.
Oh.
Even if we had a close that was like
So post
financing, like
call but not close. So you're
you know,
going
like the
back
high
in with
risk
that, like
ones, you know, the ones where you close, you're like, ooh, that
yeah,
could be a chargeback, you know?
yeah,
On those, we'd go and get the creator to send like a selfie video. And basically, like, so let's say someone is like really scared because they're like, dude, if my job finds out about this, I might get fired.
yeah.
They go send the video. And immediately what happens is they're like way more committed and like the risk of those type of people like
Yeah, well,
blading
100%.
even.
It's the post-purchase like affirmation. It's the you made a good choice. This is the best decision ever. Like make sure you do XYZ. That's interesting.
And thanks to 11 Lab, what we now do is we have the
Strong.
creator. This is where it
Yeah.
gets like nice. The setters sit there. Obviously, they need to be like English or US, but then it basically goes, yo, like I saw the call, reads out the call notes. You know, I know you're super wary about like X, Y, and Z, but like I'm telling you, like, you know, like here's one of the people, similar situation as you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I
And
know exactly what you mean.
it's so good. Like this week alone, like one of our guys, like I basically like, was like, it was a DM manager. I was like, you need to get on this, you know, like we need to just start doing this. I think we've collected like 37K so far this week and like just follow up sales off of that strategy. And that's
That
honestly been like amazing.
yeah, that is amazing. You drop so much value, and I need to DM you on the side because we need to chat about our stuff. So
Sounds
I got
good.
a hard stop, but this is
All good.
fantastic. Do you have where do people find you? You told me before this mainly X, but
Mainly either on Twitter, I'm on Instagram at Jeremy Nick M or on YouTube, Jeremy and Moser, I think, or Jeremy Nick Moser, one of the two. Like I'm starting to get into it, like which actually you were really the catalyst that made me go like, oh fuck, I actually need to get my ass to do it because I couldn't be
okay.
bothered to do it. And then I
Well, you
saw this
just don't
looks
have to do
so
it
easy.
quality. If nothing else I showed is you don't have to do it with production value.
It was when I geared up for like Jeremy Haynes like mastermind and like everyone was like on the bad way, but like everyone was like glazing, oh my god, Ryan Clogg's coming. And I was like, you guys didn't even know where Ryan was. Like, and now you're acting like freaking Britney Spears about to pop on stage, you know? Which is cool, right? Which speaks
Yeah,
obviously to the value
crazy.
you're bringing. But I
Yeah,
was
it's
like,
great.
oh nice. This has pushed me over the edge.
I'm not gonna be able to go to Q4 one, I don't think, because I'm gonna be in New York.
You're
But
missing the
are you
warehouse.
going to are you in any of the other ones? Or going to anything else?
No, I honestly just realized it. I've been a part of a bunch of them and gotten some value out of it, but Jay's just honestly like Jeremy's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Comes from the name, I guess. But
Yeah.
no, like Jeremy's been honestly probably the only person I consider like a steady mentor. He's been amazing. Like a lot
Yeah.
of the stuff is inspired by what he does and how he thinks about stuff. And so to me, I'm just like, I'll stay in this pocket. And unless something comes up that's really valuable to me, I
Yeah.
just don't see the need for it.
Yeah, I'm finding already that there's like different buckets of different people. I think Nick just launched his, so it's like Fisher's got his whole background. It's just who they are as individuals, and then it's like truly like the them mastermind, right? More than anything, it's like Iman is Iman, so he's got his whole world of like revenue generating events, organic, like crazy high production value, all of that. But then, and the worldwide talent over there is crazy too. Like you look at some comps versus like the U.S. talent versus it's
Yeah.
crazy. And then Jeremy is just the hammer it. He's a cool because he's like, I guess Iman too, but they're like player coaches. All of these guys are player coaches. Him, Cole, Nick,
Yep.
Jeremy, they all are like running it on the daily and then can pop on a call 5 minutes later and be like, here's the brand new tactic thing that we're trying that just like even what you just said that crushes.
Yeah, but to me, the thing is like, I'm by the way, I don't mean this as a knock, but I just think like Jeremy and like I would say put myself in the category. Like Jeremy's done this across like so many vertical and
Yeah.
niches, you know?
Facts.
Like I know our shit's like timeless because like, you know, my business partner has cracked like 37 different niches
Yeah,
on
it's
how to
crazy.
go viral in those. And it's like, there's again, it's not enough, but if somebody's like, oh, I've blown up this one thing, yes, it might work, but you might also just be an outlier, you know?
Yeah.
Like if like let's say Shelby Zapp does like a coaching like on how to like build your brands, like, oh, you are not like probably an objectively like above average looking girl and you're not able to be very confident. Well, you're probably not going to work for you, you know?
Yeah.
Like shit,
Facts.
you know?
Facts.
Not to knock that on her, she's obviously doing a
Oh
great
no,
job,
no, 100%. No,
but it's
it's
it's that type of stuff where it's like if you can do it across different niches and you're not the only case study per se, right? I
yeah.
just think makes it a lot easier, which is again why I really like Jay stuff.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, cool, man. I'm gonna DM you 30 seconds after this, and let's figure something out. But you're great.
Appreciate you having
I
me on.
appreciate all the value, and we'll talk soon.
Sweet. Which, by the way, you should have my business partner on. He would
I'm
give you
down.
a content master class on this
I'm
shit.
down.
Like,
I'm down, dude.
he's
Right
next.
now, I'm scheduled out. I have one more on Friday, and then I have nothing queued out. And I was like, I might take my moment. I kind of want to go back to solo videos. They like more, and it's interesting because it's like sometimes
I
I
think
feel
the
like I don't,
mix is I think the mix is what does it for me
yeah. So I'm
because I
thinking
want to
like,
know what you're up to and what you're kind of cooking, and like
yeah, there's
that's
some
where I
fun
think a
in
lot of
that.
the
Yeah.
value comes in. Like when you did the org chart videos, I was like, finally somebody talks to like org chart, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I can do that, and it's changed dramatically. Now I got multi-entity, like I'm ready. Like yeah, I'm ready. I've been cooking, just interviewing, but all right, cool. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
All right, talk soon.